Okay, party people of the ether space, welcome to another enjoyable, contemplative episode of the Paranoia podcast. I am Olaf Phillips. I publish some magazine called Paranoia, and on the line I have Ron Patton. Ron?
Hey, how's it going out there?
That was a great intro, Ron.
Yeah, I guess I'm the editor-in-chief of Paranoia Publishing, soon to be Paranoia Media, by the way.
Yes.
I know you don't know that, but it's going to become Paranoia Media.
Uh-oh, I think there's a phone call in my future.
Yep. Stay tuned.
And tonight we're really pleased and honored to have Elana Freeland on. Ron's going to do the bio, but Elana is an amazing researcher. She's written some amazing books, and I really want to get down into this stuff because she knows. That's all I can really say. Ron,
Mm-hmm.
Bio.
Well, actually, I'll just talk from experience. I met Elana in the early 2000s, and probably right around 2000, by the way. And we met at Traditions Cafe, and you were showing The Sleep Room, I believe, right?
Yeah, right.
And
that's a long time ago.
And actually, I think you initially responded, or I responded to you. There was something in the newspaper in the Olympian, and I thought, wow, I should meet this person if she's going to be talking about this mind control stuff, which I was really into for a number of years. And so we talked and we collaborated. Then we decided to do work on a mind control magazine called MKZine, which had to do with coercive mind control, invasive human experimentation, and other related abuses. But I was just really fascinated with Elana's mind in the sense that she had a really good grasp of not just sort of what's going on in the world, on the surface, but some of the deeper esoteric aspects of manipulation and, why things are the way they are today. Sort of like peeling an onion and finding out, the truth gets a little bit deeper and deeper. But anyway, so that's how I met. And it's been, we've had some great years together. You were also involved with Paranoia Magazine, right?
Yeah, for a while, I think I was your editor.
Yeah, I think so too. I believe.
What are titles?
Yeah. I know. So yeah, basically, when I took over Paranoia in 2012, I asked Elana Freeland to be my editor, and so you did that for a few years, and then you went on to write some books, and you were involved with. Weren't you involved with James Shelby Downard book?
Yes. When I was living in England, I had the manuscript that Michael A. Hoffman II had published, done by Shelby before he died, and it was his autobiography. And truthfully, it was so badly written I couldn't read it. So I just decided on my own that I would edit it as I went. And that's what I did. And then it occurred to me that perhaps I should let Adam Parfrey at Farrell House know that I had edited it, because I know Adam had met Shelby. And, Shelby was a giant to him and to Michael Hoffman and to me, though I had never met Shelby on this side. So I contacted Adam, and he said, send me the manuscript that you've edited and send me the old manuscript so that I can check and see what you did. And so I did that. I mailed it from England, and he did use it. And he said, I wish if it makes any money, you'll get some. But apparently the book never made any money because people just don't realize how valuable Shelby's 1930s, 40s, 50s insight into Freemasonry in the United States really is. That is the book to go to see what it was, how much like the mafia it was in those decades.
Right.
So anyway, that's how I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got back to the States, then Adam asked me if I thought I could write a book on chemtrails, and that's how the chemtrails HAARP and the full spectrum dominance of planet Earth happened.
Right. So let's get back to mind control. And what sparked your interest, or what was sort of the impetus for you to do sort of more research into that realm of mind control?
Ron, remind me of the year. You're good at this. The year that I showed the sleep room downtown Olympia.
Actually, I think it was at 2000. I believe it was around 2000, as a matter of fact.
Okay. All right. So for the previous, for the previous 7 years, since 1993, I had been working on a series of books that I eventually called Sub Rosa America. And what I was doing is, with the at that time, the computer and internet were just happening, and I was on the net a lot, researching the deep state, as it's known now, and that's when I came across MKUltra in those years. So for 7 years, I've been researching deep stuff for my Sub Rosa America series. That's how I got involved. Because one of the, I don't know if you remember the story, Ron, but when I started that novel, it's a novel. It's 5 novels actually in a series, but it's all the same story, and it's all really a history of the United States since Kennedy's assassination. And it began with me writing a short story about 2 friends of mine who were killed by the mafia in the 60s on a drug thing. And in the middle of the story, suddenly these 2 characters showed up in my imagination, and I had not a clue who they were, but I could see them very well. And one was a Native American man, and the other one was a European with a sort of French, Eastern European accent. So I, being the way I am, I went to the library and asked the reference librarians for some books, and I started researching, and eventually came up with 2 of the they're minor characters, but very important minor characters. One being Saint Germain, very, very famous, the famous time traveler, Saint Germain, and the other being a Native American man named Ghost Bear, who was a Lakota Indian. So, it began weirdly in that when I began to research at the library, I realized I had to write this history because of that day I spent with Kennedy, John Kennedy, in the Rose Garden when I was 15, 16 years old. Right. And these books are really all about what's happened to America since Kennedy's assassination.
Right. Actually, and I was able to read your books, your series, Sub Rosa America. And when I was reading it, I'm thinking this should be a TV series. I mean, it's just so riveting, and it has a lot of historical context attached to it. I mean, somebody like Bryce Zabel, I could see him producing something like that.
Do we need to get him on the horn?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Just because, again, it gets into so many things that are, I mean, it's not a total fiction per se, but at the same time, it just it's this long winding journey, and these people are involved in all these various types of synchronicities, and but it sort of eludes and also goes directly into a lot of history from the time JFK was assassinated until now.
Right, and it's all happening in the future, because this is a 1970 that these young people are traveling Route 66 on their way to Dallas to see where Kennedy was shot. And at the same time, the U.S. military is running a time experiment in the desert, and they come into that and are meeting dreamers, dead people, and various and sundry characters from the future. And it is during that journey that they decide that it is no longer good enough to just live a personal life in the United States of America. So, yeah, I mean, it is America. It's the story of America. It should be on the bookshelf right next to Howard Zinn's book, The People's History of the United States. And it has a small readership because I got so involved in the chemtrails movement that I haven't really had time to market or really make any effort to make sure people out there know it's there, other than that it's on Amazon.
Right. So that was sort of your beginning in terms of doing the research and having an interest and understanding of mind control and this mass manipulation of human consciousness. Who are some of the individuals that you looked up to and respected in terms of disseminating information on mind control?
Well, the person who comes to mind right away is Walter Boert's Mind Control, a huge spiral-bound manuscript I had of it then. I went very thoroughly through that. I mean, I was reading Michael A. Hoffman II. I was corresponding with Michael until he cut me off. And then I was reading Jim Keith. And then when I met you, I remember you were able to turn me on to a lot of things that I hadn't really known about because you'd been in that field for quite a while yourself. And I just wanted to mention that the impetus to really learn about mind control it began with a character in the book whom I call Baby Rose. She is an MKUltra, and she is modeled on, I think by then I had read the book on Candy Jones, who's considered one of the first CIA agents, MKUltra style. And so that was really important. And then I became friends with a local psychiatrist that you and I both know, Ron, and who was actually doing deprogramming of MKUltra military style program people. So, it just was surrounding me. And it was only after I got back from England this last time that I tried to get Navy brat insurance because my father had been an officer in the U.S. Navy. And it was only while I was on the phone with that person that I learned that my father had been ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence, a scientist for them. He was an inorganic chemist. He taught at University of Missouri. And he would go on long trips, and a lot of trips. And I realized that he had actually been ONI all his life. And that was a real mind blower for me, because a lot of the mind control research that I've done really, I think, is tied to my own biography, because my father was nuts. And he was brilliant and very sick, and I was greatly damaged by him. And it's just amazing to me how I've heard this from other writers, that you will go in the direction that you need to go because of unanswered questions in your own biography, and it sure was true for me.
Right. And I remember the times where we were just having these long discussions about mind control and human experimentation and ritual abuse. And at the time we were both living, I mean, you're still residing in Olympia, but Olympia, Washington, just that area just seems so inundated with, ritual abuse and mind control survivors. I've never been to another place in the country where it had that kind of vibe. Would you agree, or?
Oh, I would agree. Yeah. I mean, I don't follow it anymore, but from my psychiatrist friend, I've definitely learned of many satanic rituals going on in our local Capitol Forest, up in Shelton, Washington, which is just a few miles up the road. You'll find a lot of Mexico license plates, and there are really quite a few SRA types there. Mm-hmm. So why is it, I more and more am tending to think of the earth magnetism of certain places. I mean, you think of the ley lines and the Stonehenge in England and different places of power. And I really can feel it here, that there's a sort of murky power here.
Yeah, and it's a Masonic strangle. It was the Freemasons founded Olympia, hence the name of Olympia, the Greek goddess, right?
Right. And then Dan Evans, Senator Dan Evans, was involved in the founding of Evergreen State College. And Dan Evans was definitely CIA connected. So there's a lot of mind control type stuff up here. But I know it's not the only place in the country by far.
I know. It just seems like it's just so saturated, and it's not a huge city by any means. Of course, it's the capital of Washington State, but it just seemed like I met so many mind control or ritual abuse survivors there, over the years. And the interesting thing, too, is that when mind control survivors go through Olympia, there's several people we know, they don't like it. they don't like the vibe, and they can tell that there's something amiss about it. So, it's just a very interesting place from a lot of different levels.
Well, are there any military bases in that area that were involved? State hospitals?
Very good point. I mean, we have the Joint Base, JBLM, Joint Base Fort Lewis. What's
McCord
the name
Air Force.
McCord Air Force Base. It's just down the road, not even 30 miles, and it surrounds Olympia. I mean, it encroaches on Olympia through the town right by us called Lacey. So military, yes. In fact, I can say with that it is true. JBLM is now the primary training center for special forces. And if anyone knows about special forces, that's mind control. So it's here in spades. And as far as the hospital, that would be St. Peter's Hospital. And I certainly have met people who've been messed with in the psych ward.
Right. Also at Steilacoom Hospital as well, which is right next to Fort Lewis, the Steilacoom Mental State Hospital. But the interesting thing too, Olaf, about that area and about Fort Lewis is there's been a couple of these recent mass shooters that were stationed at Fort Lewis who were snipers or sharpshooters. Also, I believe back in the late 70s or early 80s is when the 1st Earth Battalion was formed there before they were transferred out over to Fort Bragg.
And the number of suicides out there of these guys who are doing one tour after another in Iraq and Afghanistan is staggering. We have the largest suicide rate at this base of any base in the country.
Wow.
Wow. Well, here, not far away from where I'm at, we have the Vacaville State Mental Institution, which was involved in Ultra. We have Stanford SRI. I mean, here in the Bay Area, Hamilton. I mean, we've got our own kind of attachment to it as well.
Oh, well, I think of the Bay Area as mind control central in the 60s. Absolutely. And Vacaville, that's not just the what was the name of the kidnapping of Patricia Hearst? I mean, the SLA was there.
Sudanese Liberation Army.
Their brains were operated on. And when I was helping Joanna Harcourt Smith write her autobiographic book about her years with Timothy Leary as his significant other, it became obvious to me that when Tim was transferred to Vacaville, that they messed with him. Because when he came out, he was a starseed cosmic pioneer suddenly, from going from Mr. LSD guru to that. So you are in the thick of it, Olaf, down there.
Oh yeah, we had Operation Midnight Climax. I mean, the People's Temple, Jim Jones. I mean, it was founded here. So, and I'm not surprised that the People's Temple was founded in San Francisco. I mean, it's smack in the middle of between Stanford SRI and Vacaville. So and that's exactly the stuff I go into in depth in the Sub Rosa America series. I mean, it really is a book. Yes, it's American history. There are many historical events that are discussed, but it's really about the MKUltraizing of the United States, beginning with the Kennedy assassination and how Lee Harvey Oswald was set up, and went through a hypnosis program and was MK'd in Japan. So it's rife. It's rife ever since Alan Dulles signed off on it in '53, and even before that, it had already begun.
So, getting back to the magazine that we put out back in 2003, what were some of the interviews, which you did several, that really stood out? Whether they
there are
survivors?
two that are so important, Ron, important, and they are. The one with Diana Annapolis.
Yes.
And then the other one I think of is with Marion Knox. And with Diana, I always get sad. And because this was Curio in the 90s.
Curio Jones.
Curio Jones on the net, and she was exposing Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino at that time, who is now a retired general of the U.S. Army. And Aquino is the one who wrote Mind Wars for the Army. It was basically Mr. MKUltra with a stamp of approval by the Army. And Diana was destroyed by this man and his minions. I know that the last chapter that I can remember is when you went to her house and knocked and tried to raise someone.
La Mesa, California, which is a suburb of San Diego.
Yeah, and no one answered, and yet
I knew somebody was in there, but they just didn't answer. Sadly. Yeah,
I mean, she was beautiful. She was brilliant. She had a good heart. She was exposing all the pedophilia satanically involved with of Aquino, and they went after her with a vengeance. So that interview was during that period before she went nuts from what they did to her. And then with Marion, he
Knox.
was Marion Knox, a minister from Oregon, who was basically doing exorcisms of MKs in his home. He and his wife were just like a couple of grandparents, weren't they? Just like,
oh yeah, I loved going over there and just hanging out and having dinner and then spending the night. It was like going to your grandparents' house. They were just
exactly.
They just exuded so much, love and goodness and good meals too.
And it's hard to imagine Marion, rebuking Satan and driving him out of people's minds. I mean,
but he was pretty effective, actually.
Yes, he was. He was
because he understood. He had the keys. He understood both the spiritual part of it and then also the other manifestation to an extent. There were certain things that I didn't agree with. Some things are kind of problematic, but I think because he had a really good heart and, he had good intentions to help people, he had a lot of success where other so-called deprogrammers couldn't even touch these individuals.
That's right. Yeah. No, he understood. I mean, I do believe if we went in a little more deeply into what mind control is, I do believe that there's a certain level beyond which you are looking at entities and possession. And Marion understood that, and that he would do it through Jesus Christ. I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean, that's one of the greatest. I remember living in Santa Fe and talking to a native shaman who used to come into town now and then, and we would talk. And he said that whenever he was up in the stars and he got in trouble, he always called on Jesus Christ because this solar system belongs to him, he said. So, and that's a Native American shaman who's not a Christian by any means, but he recognizes spiritual power where it is and isn't all hung up on religious terms.
Right. Interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, and during that interview with Marion, we talked about sodomy, and it's just funny to me how I'm known to many people for that interview. Because the interview was very shocking to people to read, because Marion was very, very frank about it and didn't pull any punches. And what he was talking about was really the impact of what is known as anal intercourse on the first chakra. And he wasn't by any means a Hindu, familiar with old Vedic texts or anything, but Marion knew that sodomy had a tremendous power over one's existence. And of course, it is used by pedophiles and by definitely satanic ritual abusers. It is one of the most powerful forms of abuse that they use. So I've actually gone. I went down to a town in Oregon and gave a talk on chemtrails. And after it, two young men came up to me and thanked me for that interview with Marion Knox and told me it had changed their lives. And they were a gay couple. Wow.
That's pretty profound.
It was great. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I expected a question about chemtrails, but no, it's my other hat.
Didn't you also talk to another mind control survivor, Kathleen Sullivan?
Oh, yeah. I became friends with Kathleen and helped her to edit her wonderful book, Unshackled. Kathleen is one of the most admirable MKUltra survivors I know, because she finished graduate school. She did her own deprogramming through a variety of therapies, and then she did grad school, and now she's a social worker, and has picked up the threads of a life that I just can't get over. How the stamina and the integrity and courage of some of these MKUltra survivors whom I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there was Carol Roots, I believe, too, an MKUltra survivor who wrote a book called A Nation Betrayed. And that was very interesting in that, it's called A Nation Betrayed, the true and chilling story of secret Cold War experiments performed on our children. And it was very credible because it had a lot of primary source documentation that she got from the Freedom of Information Act. Olaf, you have anything you would like to add?
Well, I'm interested in this this topic that you guys brought up about the mind control and entities. Mm-hmm. I have never heard that before. So I was wondering if you could go into more detail about the connection of deep mind control and the possible presence of entities.
Well, if Ron and I both have an MKUltra survivor friend, Elisa, and Elisa is very familiar with that topic of entities, having lived it herself, and having done a great deal of her deep deprogramming herself. It seems evident to me. One of my favorite films, and I'm not a Catholic and never have been, is The Exorcist. I'm always fascinated by that film because whoever did that film, and I don't remember who it was, really understood something about possession. And when I think of possession, I don't really think of the cross and Satan and the typical stuff. But I do know that from my years of study in Rudolf Steiner, that we have, besides our physical body, we have subtle bodies. And the etheric body, the astral body, the etheric double, the astral double, these are all subtle bodies on a frequency that our physical bodies are not on. They're on a much higher frequency. And if you are abused in childhood, in a particularly dramatic way, painful way, you can tear those bodies. And because they're on a frequency that is much finer than our dense physical bodies are on, then entities that also resonate at that same frequency can actually access you through those tears in those subtle bodies. And they enter. And I think some of the stories of Jesus, if you read in the New Testament, you see how he again and again will ask the spirit what its name is. In other words, what is your signature? What is your frequency signature? How would I call you if I were going to invoke you? And they, in the Bible anyway, they seem to have to give him their name. And once he has their name, their signature, their frequency signature, he can then take those out of those people that they're possessing. And, he sends them into a herd of swine and whatever else. That just all makes great sense to me because since I've been writing the chemtrails HARP type things, and I just finished a book on the space fence, I'm constantly translating frequencies, pulses, electromagnetics, and the idea that entities, for example, CERN is, I feel, through its instrumentation, and you're familiar with Anthony Patch, I know, they are opening a portal and inviting antimatter in, and antimatter will have its own frequency, and antimatter antimatter entities will have their own frequencies, different from matter frequencies of actual incarnated people like you, me, Ron. So it doesn't seem that far-fetched to me, and I don't have to go into a big Catholic scene in order to imagine that we are all grappling with entities. Wilhelm Reich talked about them. He talked about entities. The Reich technology can help with those. I mean, he basically said that we would experience an emotional plague because we're surrounded by radio frequency now. We're surrounded by electromagnetic energy, and it's actually too much, and it's going to show itself through an emotional plague. And so he wanted to give us some tools with orgone to help us to avoid that. Trevor Constable wrote the book, The Cosmic Pulse of Life, and that's one of my favorite books. And I was communicating with Trevor before he died. And in that book, he goes into Rudolf Steiner, he goes into Ruth Drown, he goes into Wilhelm Reich, but he has photographs done with infrared film of entities flying around in our atmosphere. Little blobby-looking guys, big blobby-looking guys, long projectile-looking guys. And you realize that, they don't have physical bodies, they have plasma bodies, which is a bit more refined. And so I think the entire world, including the psyche, is filled with entities. And it's just a matter of us really being able to recognize the signatures of these entities or taking authority over them. In the case of Marion Knox, he would take authority over them and force them out of these people who are suffering, and they would definitely feel relief. So that's how I look at it anyway, Olaf.
Well, it's interesting because one of my favorite books that Nick Redfern wrote was a book called The Collins. Well, it was about the Collins Elite. Are you familiar with the book?
Say it again.
The Collins Elite.
No. Should I write it down?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason is that Redfern, he's an excellent writer, and he does very thorough research. And he had a friend who is an Episcopal priest, I believe, and the guy came to him and said, he had been in contact with a man who was part of a top secret government program called the Collins Elite. And long story short, you should read the book, but long story short is that it was a government-funded project, I guess you'd call it, with a group of scientists where they were trying to open gateways into hell, and they were trying to summon entities, and they were trying to do some things that were deeply metaphysical, but their objective was to conjure, literally conjure in the occultish sense, to conjure entities and to play around with the occult.
Oh, I think he's absolutely right. And you do too, right? I mean, that's the military today. I mean, just the fact that Michael Aquino could achieve so much as a general, and he's a practicing Satanist and the head of the Temple of Set. I mean, it just speaks volumes. And I think the military mind would look at it this way. They would see that there was, it wasn't just men staring at goats, but that they could actually penetrate other levels of existence, because everything, if you eventually know its frequency, you realize that the entire universe is nothing but frequency, and you can access those if you have the right instruments. I think that's what has sent them deeply into Satanism. I mean, I see some of the rites that are practiced among special forces during their mind control programming, and it's evil. What can I say? It's anti. And how do I define evil? It's anti-human. It's absolutely anti-human, and that's the direction that the military has been going in for many decades now.
Right. So we talked about Marion Knox. You also talked about Rudolf Steiner. Are there other either deprogrammers or deprogramming methodologies or techniques that you've uncovered or know that actually helps people that have been subjected to mind control or ritual abuse?
Well, I do believe in, even though there are problems with it, I do believe in my psychiatrist friend, Dr. Jean Cavendish's virtual approach to deprogramming. And what it is because the mind control doctors use virtual reality to program people who are either and or hypnotized and drugged. And now they can use electromagnetic devices like the fMRI and the EEG. They use all of these things, the PEP. They can push the consciousness of the person in a certain direction, and then it can be they can see aliens in the room. They can see grays. They can see reptilians. They can see their Uncle Harry who died 100 years ago. I mean, it's just endless if you know which portions of the brain are to stimulate, and that in itself is using the virtual to program people. So what she does is she sets up a virtual reality in her office for a person deprogramming, beginning with getting a safe place, asking them to find their safe. I've sat in on several sessions, so I know. Asking them to get in a safe place, and once they have their safe place, she says, "I'm going to give you a virtual computer, and I want you to tell me what color it is when you turn it on." And so then for a moment they'll do that. They're in a sort of semi-state of consciousness, not hypnotized at all, but just sort of relaxed and a little bit down in there. And so they'll tell her the color, and then she'll tell them that next to the computer she's going to place a platform, and on the platform is going to be a vat of acid. And then she'll say, "All right, now let's just take a look around. Do you see anything on the computer? Let's see if the computer has any programs that really have nothing to do with who you are." And then the person will just stare at the screen. She'll remind them again and again, don't think it. Don't think about anything. Just look at the screen. And it'll be amazing what comes up for these people. And then if it's not their program, if it's not theirs, she'll say, "Would you like to move it into the vat of acid and be done with it?" And then she'll ask, "But tell me, first of all, do you have any programs that may endanger you if we begin to put it in the vat of acid?" And then the person will, if there's suicide programming in there, which in most MKUltras there is, then they can stop and take care of that one, take it out, put it in the vat of acid, and then move on. So she's meanwhile then taking meticulous notes so that she remembers where they've been and what they've said, so that she can guide them like a good guide in the virtual world. And this is a very unique program. A unique program. Ooh, maybe it is a program. Unique deprogramming that I really would like to see written in a book so that people could experiment with it, because I know a lot of therapists are in a rock and a hard place position where they're doing therapy, but they always hit a wall. I mean, that's the problem with programming. Yeah. Any therapist will hit the wall and won't know what to do about it because they're just, it's not included in the DSM-5.
Oh, no.
And it's not included in med school or anything. So it's this type of programming, Gene Cavendish learned from, Ron, do you remember the name of that minister in Idaho who was doing this?
Stephen Ogilvy from Boise, Idaho.
Stephen Ogilvy began this, yes.
Okay.
And he was having great success, and she went and studied with him and has been doing it ever since.
Right. And then there's other doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists that do things that are similar. There's Dr. Colin Ross and also Dr. Jerry Mungazzi. They, I think Mungazzi is out of Dallas, Texas. Dr. Ross is in Toronto, I believe, and they have clinics for people that are have dissociative identity disorder. But then you also have this whole mind control system or program that you have to deal with, and it always sort of amazed me that. Yeah, there are people that I believe have multiple personality disorder, or what they call dissociative identity disorder, through trauma at a young age. But then when you add in the whole mind control component, you have a totally different thing you're going up against. And that's why it's been so difficult for so many years, because, I mean, you got to face it, these programmers were geniuses. And so they tried to figure out ways to where there's nobody that could deprogram them or, be able to make them whole again, because of their own pride.
But it's also, there's a big caveat that has to be said in the context of what we're discussing, in that many therapists and seeming deprogrammers may actually be reprogrammers.
Yes, definitely.
And this is really a terrible dilemma for the person who awakens at some point down the road and says, "Oh my God, I was programmed. I know I was. What do I do now?" Because if you go to the wrong therapist, you can end up being reprogrammed, which truthfully I do believe is the case of Kathy O'Brien, who is with Mark Phillips. Right. I really feel for people of where the safe place to go is, and I think it's a hit or miss. And that if anyone listens to this program who is MKUltra, I think they need to proceed slowly and cautiously, and possibly even taking a friend with them to a therapeutic session to just get another opinion on how things are, what's going on. I mean, it's just, I really have a feel for that now, Ron, having known as many MKUltras as I have, of how scary it can be to realize that you're actually being reprogrammed.
Yeah, it is. Around that same time, when I got into it in the early 90s, I was hanging out with Fritz Springmeier and Cisco Wheeler, and they had befriended Mark Phillips and Kathy O'Brien. But it was just so weird because it was almost like the same script. But with Fritz and Cisco, it was more of a religious script, right?
Uh-huh.
And then
there are scripts,
with Mark, yeah. And so, and that whole thing imploded, right? And then I read the book by Bryce Taylor, Thanks for the Memories. And her situation with her daughter was almost identical to Kathy O'Brien's. And their names were the same, and they were being taken over by the, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, Yeah,
it's like a repeat.
Yeah.
And I think for her too, it's a reprogramming situation.
Yeah. So I mean, it was just really, to me, it was just sort of literally mind blowing in the sense that, you trust these people initially, and then you're seeing all these holes, so to speak, all these red flags. And so I was fortunate to sort of like be able to get away from these folks when I did, just because, on an intuitive level, it just didn't feel right. But then, their actions were a lot different than what their intentions were, I guess. And I saw the sort of the detrimental or negative impact they were having on other people. And so I guess when you start seeing a trail of discord and division, left, you just kind of have to question these people's motives. And definitely it was a very interesting time. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to put out something like MKZine, is because there was just so many spurious and just a lot of disinformation on the subject of mind control, that I thought it was important to put out something that was more objective.
And you have now recently republished the issues we did manage to do, right?
Oh, yeah. It's in a book format through Paranoia Publishing. Oh, and the other thing, too, is we're also reprinting or have reprinted Operation Mind Control by Walter Bauer.
Oh, fantastic.
And actually, we published the research edition, which is the expanded version. It's like 720 pages.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. Oh, that's well worth having.
Yeah. I had a question. So you were talking about the suicide programming. So in relation to that, there's always that, I don't know if it's an urban legend or it's something just that people talk about, that when some of these MKUltra people are activated, that when they complete their program, that they use the catcher in the rye, that they're found either carrying the catcher in the rye, or they're reading the catcher in the rye, or the catcher in the rye is in their house. What's the significance of the catcher in the rye?
Well, the catcher in the rye programming, and that's what it is. It's a certain kind of programming. I don't pretend to know how they have used that story format to shape the programming. But I have noticed that it's primarily used with male sleepers, and I have wondered about that. I've also wondered about the author of Catcher in the Rye and how isolated he was for so many years, and antisocial, built a huge wall around his compound in, I can't remember, upstate New York, I believe. And so that was one program. Another program is Wizard of Oz programming. Another one is Alice in Wonderland programming. They will utilize stories that, because they're starting in childhood, right? They start in childhood. Now, Catcher in the Rye, I don't know that that's a childhood program. I assume that it's used later because male programming, Olaf, is very different from female programming, because the male is a different species from a female. And so they would use a different story format. That's how I see it. I know that it's very famous as being, Mark David Chapman had a copy when they picked him up. I can't remember who else. Do you remember, Ron? There are a few sleepers who have had that copy, but none, to my knowledge, are female.
Yeah, I can't recollect right now.
I believe they're all male.
Yeah, they are. And what was the name of the author? Oh, yeah,
Salinger.
What's his?
J.D. Salinger.
Yeah, Salinger.
J.D. Salinger. Yeah.
And his behavior. I watched a documentary on him, and it was odd. Writers are odd. I understand that, but in this case, everything about him was odd, and I really wondered if he had been used, because I personally feel that Stephen King is used. I've read about Stephen King and his writing. I love to read about writers, and he has said again and again that it's like automatic writing for him. It's like the story arrives totally done. I think he's a CIA writer, is what I think.
Interesting, because there's a person who I knew in Olympia several years ago who said that she was sort of enslaved by Stephen King and his wife. And, I just thought, oh, okay, yeah, right. But then, she described very specifically what the inside of his house was like, and this very detailed information. And it's kind of like, and then some of the books that he wrote too, and some of the triggers within the books. And I'm going, well, I mean, I could probably believe that part, but to have somebody that had such detailed information about, somebody like Stephen King, I just sort of put it in the back of my mind and say, hey, that's a possibility. But I've talked to other MKUltra survivors who said that Stephen King's books are extremely triggering.
Well, you think about Michael Jackson. I mean, he was programmed.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the difference between that and a writer?
Yeah.
So to me, I've got Salinger at the top of the list. I've got Stephen King right there. P.K. Dick, he definitely talked about being programmed. He gave all kinds of clues and hints in his books that people just thought was fiction.
Right.
The fact that the CIA has a cultural tentacles that's a no-brainer.
Right.
That's how you control people. The fellow who used to publish on the internet, who maintained that Mark David Chapman was a dead ringer for Stephen King, I really looked into that, and I think he's absolutely possibly right that Stephen King was traumatized by being at the assassination site outside the Dakota Hotel, and either he pulled the trigger or Mark David Chapman pulled the trigger. Both were in a mind-controlled, altered state.
Right.
And I think that when you study Stephen King, the incident he had with the guy with the truck who, basically ran him down, saying that he was dealing with his dog, and you start studying that, and that was another incident. It's as though they wanted to pull his chain now and then. Mm-hmm. I really feel for it. I feel for all these guys that they're locked in with devious agents who are utilizing their creative talents.
Right. So we were basically talking about the MKUltra type of mind control, and can you bring us to some of the more current types of mind control modalities, like electronic harassment and organized stalking?
Right. I mean, I think if you just go back a little bit further, like the CIA writer, I think his name was William Sargent, when he went down to Haiti and the Caribbean and started looking into voodoo and things, and that's where they discovered that terrific CIA drug curare, use it on all kinds of people. If you look at ritual, it goes into religion. Every religion has rituals, some more primitive, so-called, than others, some blood rites, some using music to alter consciousness and get you into an altered state, like, rock concerts, the Grateful Dead. I mean, there are many ways to alter consciousness.
Right.
And then you can always, in the music one, and I think they're using it profusely now, you can then put some subliminals in. And then you've got a whole generation of people that you can manipulate with little effort electronically. So there are many venues. Take, for instance, Freemasonry. They have their own mind control. Michael A. Hoffman said it's called Masonic apoplexy, and it's an altered state. And when you read, as I have, I've read several books on the Jack the Ripper murders, and you read about Jack the Ripper, and you say, well, was he the physician, the Queen's physician, William Gull? Was he this guy? Was he that? Whoever it was, they were in altered consciousness, and they were a 33rd degree Mason. No question in my mind. So everybody has, it's old. And it's now, then it, when the CIA started, it's important to remember that they depended on satanic cults for their first subjects, so-called victims,
right.
Because satanic cults, since at least the 1700s, have had the market cornered on dividing and shattering the personality into various pieces that can then be programmed separately for different functions.
Right.
And they knew how to use pain induction. They knew how to use drugs. They knew how to use hypnosis and rituals. Just to stand and be in a ritual where there is bloodletting, whether it's an animal or a person, is a consciousness altering. I don't know if you guys have ever been in an almost accident or watched one happen in front of you on the freeway or something, but I had that happen where I'm amazed. I still ponder it now and then of how I watched a car flip ahead of me, and we were all slowed down by then, but it went in it was like a ballet. It went very slowly and bounced on its roof, and it was like my consciousness was completely altered right there by nothing more than my horror at watching someone's car flipping and them probably dying. So this altering of consciousness, what they wanted was they didn't want to have to do all this hands-on stuff. The EEG required all the little things pasted on your scalp. They didn't want to have to do the hypnosis. They didn't want to have to do the drugs. And they didn't want to have to do the pain induction right there. So take it out of the hospital setting, take it out of the clinic setting, and make it remote, make it no-touch torture, make it no-touch mind control. And that's what's going on now. I get calls from abused people, targeted individuals. I don't know, 12, 14 calls a month. How do they find me? How do they know that that I know that I believe them? So now they can use a variety of techniques, and of course, the guy to read in my book is Dr. John Hall. He has been targeted himself. He's very familiar with what lowlifes are involved in it. He wrote a book on satellite targeting. He's also written his more recent book, Guinea Pigs. I did notice that in the satellite book, he kept saying over and over, well, this isn't our government. This is criminals. And somehow they've managed to get the machines from our government. And I noticed in the Guinea Pigs book after that, he's talking about the government doing it all the time. Yeah. Yes, it's no-touch torture. It can be done from satellite. It usually uses a triangulation with cell towers and perhaps a laptop and of course, the cell phones that are essential to the lowlifes who are following people and breaking into their houses and raping them, and that these cell phones are altered, and they can trigger. I think all these people are MKs. I don't think they've had the sophisticated MKUltra programming, but they've sure been programmed. Maybe a bargain basement programming for expendables who are out there making people's lives hell. So yes, MKUltra, I like to say it's graduated to EMKUltra. In other words, electronic MKUltra. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another good book. It's It's called Project Soul Catcher by Robert Duncan. And that really got into the whole mind hacking and mind uploading. And it just really blew me away because we know a couple of people that's happened to. And both of their descriptions are just astounding, of what they perceive.
Yes, I mean this is called remote neural monitoring is the term now, RNM, and I'm presently ghostwriting for a woman, a Chinese American woman, who is a BCI experiment, brain computer interface experiment. Oh, okay. So they've set up a modem. They've made her brain. She's had one nanobot removed surgically at a great expense and trauma, and has two more in her brain that she's just not going to deal with because it's just too much. And she has another 5 or 6 in her body. So what they're doing is they've turned her brain into a modem. In a way, she's the means by which the computer, she's a human computer. And he's storing his files in her brain. So sometimes she can see them in her mind's eye, see whole pages of code. Right. And other times she'll see the code on the monitor of the computer she's at, because he'll get some sort of electric signal that she's going online, and then he can manipulate how she makes her way through the computer via her brain. So I think a lot of people are now being used, and that's how I look at it, Olaf, is that these are experiments being made, and they have a variety of experiments. And I was shocked when I reread John Hall's Guinea Pigs book, because he seems to think that in America alone, not counting Europe, there are 6 million people being experimented on in this way. And it is totally concentration camp stuff. This is incarcerating you in your own apartment, and it's a travesty. It's a travesty, and it's amazing to me how few people, certainly in Olympia, believe that this is going on. They can't even wrap their heads around it. So it just floors me when they will talk about the Holocaust till the cows come home. Right. But they can't imagine that you could, even despite wireless phones and wireless everything, they cannot imagine that you could incarcerate someone in their own home. And think of what they're doing with marginal populations, like in prisons, like the homeless, like in mental institutions. Just think, I mean, it's just staggering, the crime. I mean, it makes the Holocaust look like nothing. It's very irritating to me, if you can't tell. Very irritating.
So how do you think MILLab fits into this?
Well, do you mean the computer program? You mean the computer that the military has going?
No, the one where people who are abducted, they believe they're abducted by aliens, the screen memories break down.
Like by Dr. Helmut Lamner?
Yeah, MILLab. I'm sorry, I pronounce it different.
MILLab, yeah, MILLab.
Oh, yeah. Well, that certainly, I guess my latest take on it is that the military is retro-engineering actual abductions that have taken place on a plasma body level, on a psychic level, not a physical level, with entities that have access to, again, we're talking possession here, that can access people through their psyches. And I have to say that because now that I've been doing this chemtrails thing, I've really studied plasma physics, and I understand the fourth state of matter much better now. And I really think that when Trevor constable was filming these entities in the sky anyway, when the sky being almost like an ocean, a sea, with very sea-like looking creatures in it, and amoebic looking creatures, that they were in plasma bodies. They can take any shape they want. And often they will take shapes that humans will think, oh, that's a this or that's a that. That's how I think of them. And when I say them, I'm not talking about any critters coming from Alpha Centauri. I'm really talking about earthbound creatures, what I would call, instead of ETs, I would call them intraterrestrials. They are in the Earth atmosphere and in the Earth itself, and have been for billions probably of years, or however long, longer than we have, and that sometimes they, now that we have an ionized atmosphere, like a huge antenna is the way our atmosphere is. You haven't read my book, but take my word for it. And now they have even a more ready access to our environment. And now that we have all these heavy metals in our bodies on a nano scale, we're breathing them in all the time, just billions and trillions of them. They can actually access our bodies more easily too, because we're picking up these electromagnetic waves that are constantly barraging us from military programs, as well as our own cell phones and power lines, etc. So I guess that's how I look at the so-called ET. It's an intraterrestrial, and its body is primarily plasma. So these people who see themselves being taken through walls and out through ceilings and into ships, I think that in a plasma body, they could easily be accessed by entities that I have no idea quite. I think there's a tremendous variety. It's certainly not just reptilians and greys and that sort of thing. But the military has attempted to copycat that, and they do their own abductions, and then they mess with people genetically, reproductively, mentally, and if there is a great sin here, it lies with our military that seems to believe that the end justifies the means, no matter what.
Yeah, you seem to have a lot of this crossover with mind control experiments and alleged alien abductions, over the years.
Yes.
So glad you brought that up, Olaf.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to cross over quite a bit, and the screen memories, the symbolism of the owl that people claim that they see. It just, the screen memories breaking down. It just sounds very much like an MK kind of program.
And also not to forget the abuse that small children go through with satanic cults and doctors and psychiatrists and whoever who have true knowledge of the brain. And for example, of the hippocampus and the amygdala, of the limbic brain. They know what parts of the brain to damage in childhood, so that's what this child will now see. Aliens will see entities, will do this or that. I mean, the knowledge of the brain, it's like, I think Obama called it, what was it, the year of the brain or whatever. I mean, it makes me cringe because I know what it really means. This is not all being done for, we can help people with brain damage.
Betterment of
humankind. It's not that at all. Yeah. It's about control. It's about control over the human nervous system. And it's all leading to transhumanism. It's a Nazi approach to transhumanism as far as I'm concerned. And I really when I hear people talk about abductions, I don't say much because I know they have I don't want to argue with them. Oh, well, that wasn't physical, that was plasma. They're not going to want to hear that from me. I know that because it was traumatic. That's
Sure.
the bottom line, traumatic. And it was real, 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 just the way psychic events can be so real. Of course it's real. This is not playing games, but I do like to be a little exact. I would like to be exact about exactly what body is being toted out there and into a
accessed. Right.
Yes. And with the military, they have the means to take your physical body and make you feel like you're going through walls. No problem. So, is there a script involved with it, or was it really one of the intradimensional beings that toted someone out? I mean, my grandson said that there was a ship outside his house, and the aliens inside the ship, he told me, wanted him to come. And I took him at his word that there was a ship outside his house. And I believed it was the intradimensional beings, but I didn't, bother him with that because he was 8 years old when he finally told me that it had happened. And then all I said to him was, the next time they come for you, you tell them that they have to come and get permission from your grandmother. And he was so happy that I had immediately believed him. And then I told him about my experience because I had one of these entities come over my backyard one night, and I think I had called it. And I was out there in my lawn, on my lawn, in my plasma body. I would assume it was not my physical body. That was asleep upstairs, but I was totally awake and there. And that entity looked like a huge skate fish. I mean, about 40 feet wide and 60 feet long, maybe more. And when I looked at it, it was about 20 to 30 feet above me. And when it came over me, I felt the energy. It had a sound like that. And I felt the energy, but I felt completely energized by it. And I was holding my grandson, and I assume this was I felt it was a situation that a lot of people have probably found themselves in. I was out there in my plasma body, and I was holding my grandchild, and he started going into like a little petite mal seizure. And so I said to the ship mentally, I said, "Stop that. Take your energy down. You're bothering my grandson." And because I took authority over it from the get-go, we had a very nice little grokking session of each other. I looked at it, and it looked at me, and I could tell that there was something conscious on board. And then I realized it wasn't really a ship; it was an organism, because it had skin. I could see it. I could see it up close. In fact, even though I was standing 30 feet below it, it had skin like sharks. I used to dissect sharks in college in the University of Hawaii. And so I then noticed that I had thought they were windows, but they weren't. They were gills. They were aureoles, and it was breathing. And so we just looked at each other, and then it ended, and it cruised over me and then shot off like amazingly fast into the west. And then the next moment I was sitting up in bed, and I was just exactly as awake as I had been outside. And I got up out of bed and went outside and stood there, and I could feel the energy. I could still feel the energy. And I was thrilled. But I learned something. I learned that you must keep authority over these entities. If you don't, they might take you. Right. They might take you in your plasma body.
Right. Well, they can sense your fear, and then they feed off that, and then.
Yes. And I had no fear. In fact, like I said, I feel like I called it. I really wanted to see one, and it's the only one I've ever seen. So. Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we're at about an hour, which is our podcast. Elana, why don't you tell everybody where they can find your books and more information?
Okay. For the Sub Rosa America books, they're on Amazon, and you can buy them there. And then for the Chemtrails HARP and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, which came out in 2014, you can find that on Amazon, or you can order it directly from Feral House. The Space Fence book, and it has a title now, it's called Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. That will be out in September 2017, and I will be probably organizing a book tour at that point. And now I'm starting the third book in that series, which I feel I have to write, and that is on synthetic biology. And as biology was my second major in college, I feel like I'll be on home territory, whereas with plasma physics, I really had to work hard for the Space Fence book. Yeah.
Wow, that synthetic biology kind of rang a bell, because I remember a few years ago talking to Sophia Smallstorm about that.
Yes. And Sophia's wonderful in that area.
Yes. Very in-depth research. All right, Elana. Well, we thank you for being on an exciting edition of Paranoia Podcast. We hope you come back again, and then we can, get back into talking about your other books as well.
Okay. Thank you, both of you.
Yeah, it was an honor to speak with you. I mean, I love your research, and this has been fairly mind-blowing for me. I'm not as knowledgeable about the MK stuff as you and Ron are, so this is really a learning experience for me.
Oh, great, Olaf. It's really important that we know that this is going on. Many, many people are suffering from it. All right. Good night, gentlemen.
Well, yeah, and good night to our listeners. Thank you again for listening to our show. As always, you can find us at at paranoiamagazine.com, paranoiapublishing.com. Get Boart's book; it's staggering, and get the MK Zine compilation. It's amazing, and you've been listening to two of the people that wrote for it.
And what about the MKUltra files too? We have some of that.
Yes, we have reprinted the congressional hearing testimony and record for the MKUltra congressional hearings. If you're interested in actually reading what went down in those congressional hearings, at least as much as has been released to the public. But as always, we really appreciate you listening in, and be excellent to each other.
Take good care and keep the faith.
All right, night, guys.